How many years have you wasted following a feeling only to realize later that it was just your own thoughts, and not the voice of God? It is a hard pill to swallow, but most of us have been there. We pray for an answer, we get an idea, and we run with it, only to end up stuck in the mud. At our age, we do not have time to keep making the same mistakes. We need to know the truth. Today, I am going to tell you exactly how to distinguish the voice of God from everything else. To understand the truth, you have to realize that your mind is like an old radio catching 3 different stations at once. If you do not know how to tune the dial, you will follow the wrong signal every single time. First, you have the broadcast of the ego. In the Bible, Matthew, chapter 26, verse 41 calls this the flesh. But let us talk about how it actually feels. This voice is always in a hurry. It is impulsive. It is the voice that speaks when you are hungry, angry, or tired. It uses words like I need, I want, and I deserve. It is not necessarily evil, but it is incredibly shallow. It cares more about your comfort than your character. If the thought in your head is telling you to protect your pride, or take a shortcut that hurts your integrity, that is just your ego talking. It is not a divine message. It is just your instinct trying to avoid the hard work of growing up. Second, you have the broadcast of the critic. This is what the world calls the enemy, but you might know it as that dark, heavy cloud of shame. This voice is a master of the half-truth. It takes a mistake you made 30 years ago and turns it into your identity. It whispers, you are a failure, or God is finished with you. Now, listen closely, because this is the value you need to remember. God brings conviction, but the enemy brings condemnation. Conviction feels like a surgeon's knife. It might hurt, but it is there to heal you and move you forward. Condemnation feels like a blunt club. It just beats you down and leaves you paralyzed. If a voice makes you feel hopeless, shut it off immediately. That is not God. God never uses shame to lead his children. Third, and most importantly, you have the broadcast of the truth. This is the voice of God. As Jesus says in John, chapter 10, verse 27, his sheep recognize his voice. But here is the secret: God does not usually shout. He speaks in a way that settles your soul. It is what we call a resonant truth. It feels like a memory of something you already knew but forgot. It is steady, it is calm, and it never panics. While the ego pushes you and the critic scares you, God leads you. Even when he is telling you to do something difficult, it comes with a deep sense of rightness that your ego cannot manufacture. It is a peace that does not make sense to the world, but it makes perfect sense to your spirit. So, how do you know for certain that you are not just kidding yourself? How do you prove that the signal you are hearing is the real deal? You do not need a degree in theology, but you do need to run that thought through 3 heavy filters. Filter number 1 is the alignment of the North Star. I do not care how powerful your gut feeling is. If it contradicts the character of God found in the Bible, it is not God. God does not change his mind based on the modern world or your current mood. He is consistent. If the voice tells you to be dishonest, to be cruel, or to abandon your integrity for a gain, that is the static trying to lead you off a cliff. The word is your North Star. If the thought does not align with the book, do not even give it a second thought. Filter number 2 is the peace versus the panic. Many people confuse comfort with peace, but they are not the same thing. The ego wants comfort, it wants a warm blanket and no trouble. But the peace of God, as described in Philippians, chapter 4, verse 7, is a peace that passes understanding. This means that even when God tells you to do something that scares you, or something that is difficult for your flesh, there will be a deep, quiet rightness in your bones. If a thought makes you feel rushed, panicked, or like you are being chased by anxiety, that is almost always your own brain short-circuiting. God leads you with a steady hand. He does not drive you like a frightened animal. Filter number 3 is the harvest. You have to look at where the thought is taking you. Does this direction lead to a legacy of love, humility, and restoration? Or does it just feed your pride and make you more isolated? God's voice always points you toward a greater purpose that is bigger than your own bank account or your own reputation. If the voice is all about making you look like a hero while others look like villains, you can be sure it is just your ego in a fancy costume. True guidance always produces the fruit of the Spirit. If there is no fruit, it is not the Father. Here is the cold, hard truth: you cannot recognize a voice that you have never spent time with. Think about your own children. If they are in a crowded playground and they scream, you will recognize their voice immediately. You do not need to see them, you just know the sound. Why? Because you have lived with that sound for decades. Faith is not a 911 emergency service. You cannot ignore the Father for 6 days and expect to hear his whisper on the 7th. You need to build that muscle memory through daily conversation. And when he seems silent, do not panic. Remember this: the teacher is always the most quiet during the exam. Silence is not a sign that he is gone. It is a sign that he knows you are ready to use the wisdom he has already given you. He is not being distant. He is being a coach who trusts his player. Stop looking for a new sign and start trusting the foundation you have already built. Thank you for spending these few minutes with me here on the porch. I know the world is loud, and I know it is easy to feel lost in the static. But do not forget that you have the tools to hear the truth. It is already inside you. You just need to turn down the volume of the world so you can hear the whisper of the Father. If this conversation helped you clear the fog today, I would be honored to have you join us for the next one. We are building a community here for those who prefer wisdom over noise. If you want to make sure you do not miss our next talk, pull up a chair and click the subscribe button. It is a simple way to stay connected and keep your spirit tuned to the right frequency. Also, do not forget to leave a comment with the words "signal received." It lets me know that you are out there and that the message hit home. Take care of yourself, keep your heart quiet, and I will see you next time.